Thank you, Matthew.
Mhm.
This morning, we are continuing in a series on anger.
I'm going to silence everyone at this point so that we minimize any background noises. And there we go. Okay.
In preparing for this, in our series on anger, we're going to do resentments today. And resentments are the way that we use anger to draw hurt from the past forward so that we get angry now about something that's not even happening. All right. And so we use resentment a lot to cover up the vulnerabilities of life, and particularly in our culture right now where there's a lot to be fearful about. Or at least our brains tell us there are, and there really are.
And the
There are real
media.
dangers out there in the media. The question is, how do we live with that, and how do we maintain equanimity in the face of threats to ourselves and the people that we care about? And I couldn't decide between two poems that I found. One was by Ruth Stone called The Train Ride, and she must have been from around here, and you'll see why. She says, all things come to an end. Small calves in Arkansas, the bend of the muddy river. Do all things come to an end? No, they go on forever. They go on forever. The swamp, the vine-choked cypress, the oaks rattling last year's leaves, the thump of rails, the kite, the still white stilted heron. All things come to an end. The red clay bank, the spread hawk, the bodies riding in this train, the stalled truck, pale sunlight, the talk. The talk goes on forever. The wide, dry field of geese, a man stopped near his porch to watch. Release, release. Between cold death and a fever, send what you will, and I will listen. All things come to an end. No, they go on forever. And I love that reading because it really points to the paradox that we talk about all the time, that two totally contradictory statements can both be true, which goes against our Aristotelian logic, and yet it is true. And so she's pointing to how do we maintain that sense of continuity with what's eternal at the same time we deal with what we see perishing in front of our eyes. And this is from a fellow named Czesław Miłosz, obviously not from around here, called Encounter. We were riding through frozen fields in a wagon at dawn, and a red wing rose in the darkness. And suddenly a hare ran across the road and pointed to it with his hand. That was long ago. Today, neither of them is alive. Not the hare, not the man who made the gesture. Oh, my love, where are they? Where are they going? The flash of a hand, the streak of a movement, the rustle of pebbles. I ask not out of sorrow, but in wonder. Wow. I'm going to say that again. Oh, my love, where are they? Where are they going? The flash of a hand, the streak of movement, the rustle of pebbles. I ask not out of sorrow, but in wonder. What are our days for? Our days are to be filled with wonder, to be filled with awe, to look at all of this and go, wow, as we do at the very end. And yet we find our hearts most often cramped in sorrow over what we've lost, or anger at how we're being hurt. And that's natural, that's the human response. And so to me, what spirituality is about, and again, someone has moved my teaching aid, is about how quickly can we move from the constrictions of anger, the constrictions of sorrow, the woundings that our bodies and our psyches take, back to openness and back to experiencing that which is eternal, that which is joyful. So the constant movement of the spirit, the expansion when we get into ventral mode, when we open up to the world, and then the contractions that are going to happen. Now, the question is, why would we want to stay in a contracted state? Why do we keep resentments around? And I've asked Linnell to put up a little thingy.
Okay, a thingy.
It's a thingy.
And here's the thingy.
So, last week I said the problem is anger does have a spiritual function, and the spiritual function is to protect the spirit. My spirit, your spirit, to give it, create sanctuaries for it and say, stop, you're hurting this person, stop, you're hurting me. That's the legitimate function. But where it gets distorted is when we start using it to serve ego. Now, that sounds like something that you think you understand, but this, I hope, will explain it a little bit better. So when I got into recovery, I had a problem with anger, and I know Linnell has trouble believing that, not, but I was just a ball of rage, and I was a fight looking to happen. Everything set me off. And I was at the point where I was considering having my brain cut. They will do things to your left temporal lobe that will kind of guarantee that you don't have rage attacks. And I moved down here and got into recovery with a guy who said, your anger is secondary. He said, you're feeling something first and then you're getting angry. And he said, the anger is covering something else up. And it was interesting to have this guy in AA, just an old redneck who knew how to stay sober, who's giving me advice that none of the psychiatrists and therapists in Chicago could give me. And luckily that day, right after he said, when you get angry, go get out of the situation and think about what was I feeling just before I got angry. And so my wife at the time, my wives have numbers like popes, that she was the third, wife the third, and she was cooking, and I decided to help her with her cooking, which she took umbrage at, and I did not understand why she didn't want my advice, and she got her finger up in my face like this, and the minute the finger came out, I wanted to bite the tip of her finger off. It just absolutely enraged me. So I immediately went out in the backyard and I'm going, and I'm thinking, what was I feeling? What was I feeling before I got angry? And luckily I had something like this that reminded me, and I said, okay, what was I feeling when she was doing that? And what I was feeling was shamed. I was feeling put down, okay? I was feeling like she was trying to make me less than, to establish dominance over me. So you'll see on the chart that you have shame, and then I experienced the anger. And when you release anger, that also changes the way you see the world. It's a neurotransmitter that as soon as it happens, all of a sudden you become self-righteous. You don't listen to what the other person is saying at all. All you want to do is to be heard. And that's why we scream at each other, is because we don't feel heard. And I tell couples, once you start raising your voice, once you start name calling, cussing and doing things like that, you need to leave, because there is no discussion happening. When you have two people who are angry, what you've really got is two monologues, which with each person trying to get the floor, and wanting agreement about their point of view. No, what am I going to say? No healing is going to happen in your relationship when you do this. Okay, now, other things that I began to notice triggered anger almost immediately. My daughter's walking through a parking lot and a car almost hits her when she was about 5. And I go, God damn it, Amanda, you almost got killed. Scared the shit out of me. And she looks up at me, Dad, you look angry. You don't look scared. Okay. So feeling fear all of a sudden by getting angry, I don't feel that vulnerability anymore. When we played football, they taught me you can either play scared or you can play angry. And any of you who's ever been in a physical fight knows that when you get angry, you don't feel the pain of being hit. You'll feel it the next day once the adrenaline wears off. But during that time period, you not only don't feel physical pain, you don't feel emotional pain. So here I am feeling invulnerable, and in domestic fight, okay, bitch, bring it on. Can't hurt me, I'm angry man. But the problem was that you hear these things, and after you hear them, you can't unhear them. So I thought I was invulnerable. I thought I wasn't being hurt. And then I go, oh, I can't believe she said that about me. And so someone once said that in domestic disputes, a marriage counselor out in New Orleans said, what you see on the outside is the opposite of what's going on the inside. You see this guy all bowed up and red in the face and trying to physically intimidate. And she's going, I don't know why we can't just discuss this like adults. I don't know why you always have to get angry. You're so immature. He says, she's got a black belt in verbal kung fu, and she's just slicing him to bits. He's standing there holding his guts going, ba-da, 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 because he can't talk. Says you really need to get out of there. When someone starts, again, the function of anger is to protect your spirit. The right answer 99 times out of 100 is leave. Don't stand there and argue and get your guts cut out. Now, another thing that'll help illustrate this rather easily is, what do you do when you raise up and bump your head on a cabinet door? Or when you hit it, you go, ouch, but what else do you do? God damn it, shit, or you start getting on yourself, that was stupid, blah, 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 blah. But again, when you get angry, it anesthetizes the pain. Okay. Now, the last example I wanted to use is helplessness. So my daughter was running a fever of 105, called the pediatrician. They said, give her a couple of teaspoons of liquid Tylenol. And if it doesn't come down in 30 minutes, then you're going to have to sponge bathe her until you get it under 102. So I'm sitting there at 3 o'clock in the morning with her going, come on, honey, take your medicine. And of course, 2-year-old with a fever, 3 o'clock in the morning, he's going, and I go, honey, you've got to take your medicine. Doctor says you got to take it. Now take your medicine. I said, do I have to get someone in here to get you to take this medicine? You got to take this medicine. Then I've got my hand on her head, prying her jaws open, going, God damn it, you're going to take this shit if I got to kill you because I can't let you die. And she's going, what is going on here? Well, when you get angry, when you're feeling helpless, anger makes you feel powerful. And we know people who are scared or angry, releasing that adrenaline, lifting cars off babies, and doing extraordinary feats of strength. Yeah, it works for that. But it also shifts your perception. And when you're angry, it's like life hands you a hammer and says, go fix your problem. And so you start pounding on every situation, trying to get your point across using force, which is I shouldn't even use powerful. I probably should use forceful, because force is what we're trying to get at. In Kung Fu, we try to use the force literally, not just a Star Wars thing. but we're trying not to use force, not use it against other people. So when you look at this chart, what I want you to see is which side would you like to be on? Do you want to run around feeling shame, less than, fear, pain, or helpless? Or do you want to run around feeling self-righteous, better than, invulnerable, and powerful? And these are the choices that your unconscious makes. And this is what I mean by the conditioned mind. And this is what I mean by being in service of the monkey mind, of the ego, protecting me from my pain, from my feelings of helplessness, from my vulnerability is not spirituality. It's the opposite of spirituality. So what we're trying to do is to move back to the other side of the chart, to let go of our feelings of righteousness, of invulnerability, of powerlessness, powerfulness, and begin to recover that softness. Remember, we said last week that some of the consequences of being angry are that we lose touch with our vulnerable feeling. We don't realize that we've been hurt, like me standing after an argument, replaying it in my head and feeling the hurt and go, wow, I was hurt, or feeling the shame that someone's doing and understanding the exact nature of what's going on in the relationship, or feeling helpless, which is something we avoid from early childhood because we were helpless to do anything about our situation. So we get triggered into that. We don't realize that we've been triggered back into a childish part, a trance state in ourselves. So this anger, which gets released outward by our resentment, is extremely painful. And most of us indulge our anger and then try to come back and apologize for it and say, well, I'm sorry I got angry. And that's a start. But there's a wonderful old story about a farmer whose son, when he turned 16, said, son, I want you to do something for me. He gave him a board and about 100 10-penny nails. He says, I want you to go out and drive these nails into that board. And the son's going, oh, Dad, that's stupid. Why are you asking me to do that? Dad says, I'm not going to tell you why. I just want you to do it for me. So the son goes out, pounds the nails in, comes back and goes, here you are, you happy now? And the dad says, now I want you to go pull those nails out. And again, the son says, I don't get it, Dad. This is the dumbest thing you've ever asked me to do. Says, there's a reason, just be patient. So the son goes out and pulls all the nails out, and comes back and says, okay, I did what you asked me to do. What's the point? And the dad says, son, look at the board. What do you see? He says, I see a bunch of holes. And he said, that's what anger does, son. He says, that's the other person. And he says, when you get angry and hurt someone, it's like driving a nail into them. And when you make an apology, it's like pulling the nail out. But what you don't realize is even after the apology, you've left a hole. And too often we indulge in our anger at the expense of others. And we all know that we're carrying holes that were made by other people, even though they've apologized, they've moved on. Those holes still trigger in us those resentments, that hardening of the heart that over time builds up and insulates us against the world. So today we're going to look at how to resolve conflict when it emerges, when you start feeling angry at someone else. And this could be in your home, because politics begins anytime there are two people trying to manage the resources of their common life. You have politics, okay? And the question is, how do you begin to resolve the conflict? So we're going to do that in our meditation today. So if you would pull that off the screen so we can see everybody's pretty faces.
Okay. Yeah. Where'd it go? Not sure.
Okay.
Stop share is what I'm trying to press. There we go. Okay.
Okay, we had some people come in, but
Nancy, Sandy, Bruce,
okay, so
Jerry.
just close your eyes. And just take a couple of deep yogic breaths, drawing the breath deep into the belly and letting it rise up into the chest, expanding the chest all the way up into the throat, letting it out slowly through your nose. That gentle resistance beginning to increase the nitric oxide, relaxing your blood vessels. And the slow exhale breath sends a signal to your body that you're safe. First thing in the morning, the first message you should send to yourself as soon as you realize you're awake is, I am safe. Feel the support of the earth. First chakra, the perineum. Remembering that nourishment isn't only food, that sunlight is nourishment, negative ions is nourishment. The breath is nourishment. Feeling the support of the earth. Drawing those earth energies up. The problem is we live in our head. We need to be rooted. We need to be grounded. First thing, when you're angry, upset, off in the future, back in the past, is come to your senses, feel the support of the earth. I'm safe. I'm grounded. Breathing up the earth energies and releasing any energy that no longer serves you, any anger, any anxiety. any guilt or shame, those energies already feel heavy. And as you exhale, just feel them drain out through the energy channels in your fascia, the nadis, with a gentle allowing, dropping the rock, and choosing peace. And as you draw those earth energies up into second chakra, place where we feel our emptiness, our hunger for connection with the earth. Feel yourself filling up with those grounding energies. Receiving those energies with gratitude, without fear or feeling of shame for being needy, but know that your need is an essential part of your interconnection with all of life. It's not an entitlement. It's dharma. We don't exist alone. We exist in an interconnected web of energy, freely giving and receiving, and begin to feel that interconnectedness. I have enough. Letting go of greed, envy, taking delight in the flow of energy between you and the world that brought you into being. As you breathe in, draw those energies up into third chakra. Third chakra is the seat of anger. When it's constricted, and the seat of self with a big S. When it's open, this is the place where you feel powerful without a sense of force or need to control. I am enough. I'm worthy as I am. And claim that worthiness, not your ego, but as an expression of life force energy. Feel that life force energy coming up through the earth. And know that you are capable of facing whatever challenges you encounter today. Not capable with the disconnected ego, but capable when you're connected with this life force energy that you ride. And now you can either choose to continue here, or you can move on with this exercise and bring to mind a situation that's caused conflict in your life lately. Recreating the details of the scene from this place of safety. Turning your attention to the other person. Keeping connection with the breath. Connection with the earth. Appreciate how this other person is also a part of that life force energy that flows through you. Begin to regard them as being as sacred in their being as you are in your being. And begin to sense the tone of this person, not an idea about them, but energy. Getting a feeling for the tone of their being. And without judgment, regard them as simply a different expression of those same energies. Using the curiosity that's a part of spirit, become curious about the experiences that brought the person to this place in their lives. What do they care about? At their core, what are they striving to achieve? Sensing their particularity, their diversity, without judgment. Now let that person fade. Bring your awareness back to your experience and simply witness what you are caring about, what you're striving for, and what your perspective is. Now bringing the other back into your awareness, take another step back and imagine that the tones of your being are sitting there side by side, and witness the exchange of energy between you as vibrations, as textures, as movements of energy. Seeing where there are resonances, where there are attractions. What centers are the energy moving from? From the head, from the heart, from the gut. Simply at the level of energy, where do you clash? Where do you complement? Are you communicating at the same levels? Just sensing at an energetic level. Where has your woundings left holes that are triggers now? And when you're ready, step back even further and invite the healing, harmonizing energies of life to roll through this situation. Bathing both of you in compassion, in peace, and loving energies. Bathing you in healing energies. And see if you can feel a shift in your body as your energies begin to harmonize. Feeling these tones moving through both of you like waves. Hearing the resonances and feeling the depths of energy. And feel both of you shifting towards generosity of spirit towards each other. Noticing what you can do that might awaken a generosity of spirit in the other. spots of flexibility in yourself and in the other. Using the creativity of the spirit to see places where you can connect, coming from your different experiences and complement your lives together. Ways that you can meet. Ways that you can simply live and let live in the light of the Spirit, in the light of truth, the light of love. Which has brought us all into being. Okay. All right, questions, comments?
I have a question, and that is, what's the best way, or what are some ways by which people can atone for past transgressions of anger and stupidity?
Foolishness, Emerson.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's next week, Robert.
Okay,
Next week is going to be on forgiving ourselves and forgiving others.
okay, because I have a backlog, I must say.
And it's extremely important to get rid of that backlog. That's the guilt and shame that's totally worthless on a spiritual journey. And yet, we've been taught in the West to think that that's a sign of spirituality to, oh, I'm worthless, I'm a piece of shit, I've sinned, oh, Father, forgive me. And that somehow that's spirituality. No, that's self hate. All right. I don't know any spiritual teachers as opposed to religious teachers who see any value to guilt or shame because it simply causes you to do what? Here I am, guilt and shame, there I am, okay? That's why we know it has no place. So we will talk some about what it means to be the infinite living under the conditions of being finite. And one spiritual teacher, Reinhold Niebuhr, said, we exist under the conditions of finitude, which are one, you will never have enough information to make the right decision. Two, you will never have enough power to implement the right decision if you had the right decision. And third, if you had the power and the right information, you wouldn't have the moral will to do it because you'd be distracted by things like fear and anger, which would take you off course. And so Richard Rohr, on that thing on Spirit Keepers, he said pretty much all he does these days is work on forgiving himself. And I like that. And so the Morning Gatha, and we'll probably start with the Morning Gatha, is all evil karma created by me of old because of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance. Through my words, thoughts, and my deeds, I repent of it now. I repent of it now. It's how you
There it
start
is.
the day. And then you're done. Done. And you go, bam, back out here. Right? So you acknowledge it, you honor it, you know it's there, you're not taking it lightly, but I commit my spiritual work as that's what we call living amends. We'll talk that some about next week, is that I'm not just saying I'm sorry, I'm actually changing my behavior. That's why we went through this exercise. What can I do to see that this situation doesn't happen again? And without that, I mean, in abusive, I've worked with a lot of abused women. And you go through what's called Wallace's cycle of abuse. And the guy abuses her, and oh, baby, I'm so sorry. And she goes, no. And she moves out of the house, and all her friends are saying, don't text, look at his text, don't do his email, don't do anything. He's going to start telling you how much he loves you and how much he's going to change. And pretty soon, one day, in a moment of weakness, she listens to something, agrees to go out to lunch, and he tells her how much he's changed and how different he is, and blah, 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 blah. And then she buys back in, and everything's good for a while, and then slowly the old behavior creeps back in until you have another situation. And it doesn't matter whether that's domestic violence between a husband and wife, or whether it's a kid who's an alcoholic and sitting and living in his folks' home and not moving out, not taking responsibility for his life. And finally, folks get fed up and say, okay, that's it, you're out. Oh no, I'll change, I'll go to therapy, does for a while, then starts going back to the old behavior soon. And so real change is a very difficult situation. Okay?
Yes.
Corinne.
Yeah. Oh, for me right now, a change of behavior, it can help me if I think of someone else who went through terrible horror in their life and they made it.
Mm-hmm.
That helps me in the situation to be more aware of what I'm doing right then at that moment, knowing that it'll be okay. This person made it through. I don't know how, but they did.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of helps me change a behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one.
So again, we have the Spirit sees what we have the potential of doing, and that we fall short. And when we think about sin, all sin meant back in Jesus's day was missing the mark. And it had the connotation of you try to hit the bullseye and you miss. That doesn't mean you're a worthless human being. God's going to punish you for eternity for missing the bullseye. No, it just means you go and you try again. So we need to see that that's part of the process. That's not what's wrong with us. That's how we learn. That's how we evolve. And as you say, the reason we listen to stories, and we do that a lot in recovery, is because people tell us how it was for them, what they changed, and how life is now. And that's inspiring, because if we can relate to them and say, wow, I'm in the same place they were in, they're obviously not in that place right now. I maybe can learn from them how they got to where they are and become teachable. That's what the Buddhists call the great chain of compassion, and we're all involved in it. We've always got someone above us who's got what we need, and we need to be teachable and lifting a hand up, taking that advice, and then extending a hand back to the people who need what we already have, and share our experience, strength, and hope with them to lift them up, so that we're, as I like this phrase that's used, that the people are using, if you have any kind of platform, use it to lift people up.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Upon what you just said, when I mean change, I think I more mean accepting what is, only, admiring what that person went through and their fate and whatever helps me maybe accept it all. The change it's not really it's not something that I can learn like mathematics or something, it's an acceptance. Does that make any sense?
That's
Totally.
part of what we were doing in that exercise, is moving towards acceptance of what's going on with the other person and yourself. Yeah, exactly. So, one of the exercises that's similar is you never know what the other person is dealing with that's behaving in a way that you find unacceptable. My responsibility is not to change them. That's what I want you to hear. We go to work trying to get them to be different, and that gives them control, and we actually lose control of the situation by trying to control it. When we can step back and say, my first responsibility is to get myself back to a state of peace and acceptance, and then engage them from a place of compassion with not control, but compassion and acceptance, that's when the situation begins to shift. That's where you create the space for movement.
Okay. I can really appreciate that fathering a teenager right now. It's been I really relate to what you say about getting angry about things you can't control, and changing my behavior. And I've had a lot of success with being able to change my behavior and coming from a place of compassion as opposed to anger. It's really helped a lot.
Oh, good. Yes, and I've got to second what Jeremy's saying about himself. I've watched him go through this and watched him grow and really totally shift that position. So it's inspiring to me to see you on your journey.
Here's Rupa.
Rupa, you got anything?
No.
I did see that you came in. Good to have you with us again.
Thank you. Same.
Okay, anybody else? So do you find this to be a radically different approach to conflict resolution? This is different from the way most people do marriage counseling and stuff, where they get in, what are your expectations, blah, 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 blah. That's just drawing ego into it. This really says, what can I do? What can I do to invite generosity of spirit? I love that line, people. I love that line. So when I carry a resentment, I allow people to take away my generosity of spirit. I become a person that I don't want to be. Does that make sense? And that's my choice. That's not what they're doing to me, but that's what I feel the loss of. That's why we want to reconcile, because I want that back. I want to live in that expansive. Am I the only person who wants to live in that place? Maybe I've lost touch with reality.
You know, I have this trip in a couple of months, this big family thing. And this is really ringing true as part of my journey to get there. Let them be who they are, respect who they are, but don't let them turn me into the person I don't want to be, which
Yeah.
is what my history is. I turn into the person I don't want to be. And so that really rings true, and I'm going to really be thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, it's something I just put together right this minute about the holes in the board, is that when we're around the people who've hurt us, those holes are your triggers. Okay. And so when something in life represents those triggers for us, we fall in the hole. And slowly, the beauty of that, where the analogy breaks down, is that with repeated falling in the hole and consciously moving out of it and learning the mechanisms of moving out, that hole begins to heal. Over time, it does. It becomes a lot less reactive and a lot less unconscious and easier to deal with. And that's what Corinne was saying, where finding the courage to let go. People are always afraid to let go of their defenses because they're afraid of being hurt, not realizing that I'm creating the hurt myself by shutting down and trying to stay protected. Trying to stay protected is egoic. When we do it that way, you're the enemy, I have to protect myself from you by shutting down my heart. No, the difference is I protect myself by staying aware and acting appropriately, not to allow you to hurt me. I don't have to get you to change. You can still be an asshole. We all remember the story of the scorpion and the frog. Y'all know that one? So they're out in a flood, and the scorpion turns to the frog and says, "Man, we got a problem here." And the frog looks at him and says, "I don't have a problem here. You got a problem." And the scorpion goes, "Yeah, I do." He says, "Man, I'm going to die if you don't help me get out of here. Get me somewhere with higher ground." The frog says, "Dude, you're on your own. I'm not coming anywhere near you." And the scorpion says, look, think about this. Why would I hurt you when I need you to get somewhere safe? You're my lifeline." And the frog, being nice, rational person like all of us, people pleasers who end up getting abused, goes, "Sure, hop on my back. I'll be glad to save your life." So he's swimming over there. He gets halfway there and he feels a sting in his side. And he goes, "What was that?" And the scorpion said, "That was me." He said, "Well, what'd you just do?" He said, "I just stung you." He said, "Dude, why'd you do that? Now we're both going to die." And the scorpion said, "Because I'm a scorpion. That's what I do. I sting frogs." And it's very important to know the nature of the person you're dealing with. Don't keep picking up scorpions and frozen snakes and all the other stories like that. You know what they're going to do when they thaw out. So that's why discernment comes into this. Okay, anything else? Are we going to ohm out?
Apparently more on this next week, so.
More on this next week. Oh, wucky duckies. Why can't it be Saturday next week already? There's a
To
good
be continued.
To be continued.
Thanks for the laugh.
Yeah.
All righty, folks. 3 rounds of ohm
And a wow.
and a wow.
Deep breath in.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Dina, do you live in the Bloom?
Do I?
Yeah.
No, we had it earlier this year. It's warming up and it's dying back. So
Was
it's at
it
least
better?
it was good this year. It was good. It was different, but yeah, it was good. But Death
I-
Valley has it this year, I think.
Yeah.
So about
Yeah.
5
Yeah, the
hours
Valley
out.
has it too. Listen, I have a love-hate relationship with the Bloom because I got Valley fever because of the Bloom.
Oh yeah, that's
It's
not good.
beautiful.
But
I
you
love it from a
survived Valley
distance.
Fever. That's good.
What is the bloom?
So good question, Woody. Out in California, they are writing all about the super bloom that they're having in the desert in Death Valley this year.
Oh.
Just poppies
Uh,
blooming all
Wow.
across as far as the eye can see.
Wow.
Yeah, Gina is in the desert,
Absolutely gorgeous.
not in Death Valley, but she's in the desert.
Well, it's gonna snow here tonight.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Same here.
Yeah, no, we've had a couple weeks of 100-degree weather, or 90
Oh,
to
shit.
Yeah.
So it's they're all dying, but the cactus is blooming now.
Yeah.
Hey.
So- Okay,
Bye,
this
y'all.
is my
Have a
this
good
is my
weekend,
spirit
everybody.
animal on my shirt.
Love
If
you.
anybody can see this, it
I
says
love
half woman,
that.
half coffee.
Oh, I love that.
That's
one.
good.
It's my day.
Very good.
Love you guys.
I'm glad it's yeah.
Thank you.
Pretty.
Thank you. Have a great week.
Thanks,
All
everybody.
of you.
Bye.